And I know you have to see Paul and Maggie during the night times when you're attempting to go to sleep. I'm sure they come and visit you. I'm sure.
All day and every night.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, tonight at 10, shocking revelations playing out in a South Carolina courtroom. A disbarred attorney, Alex Murdaugh, took the stand to try and prove his innocence. Good evening, I'm Brian Blakely.
And I'm Alicia Barnes. Well, it was a bold move by the defense, putting their client on the stand where Murdaugh even admitted to lying for almost 2 years.
Queen City News anchor Morgan Francis has been following this trial very closely. Morgan, did this bode well for the former attorney today?
Well, it's tough to say. We can't get inside the minds of the jury, but a huge revelation is that Alex Murdaugh admitted he was at the spot Maggie and Paul were murdered just 5 minutes before they were killed.
I am going to testify. I want to testify.
In a stunning twist, Alex Murdaugh took the stand, at times overcome with emotion, describing the gruesome scene of his wife and son's murders.
Boy's laying face down. He's done the way he's done. His head was the way his head was. I could see his brain laying on the sidewalk. I didn't know what to do.
The former attorney testified he lied about being at the kennels the night his wife and son were shot and killed.
Did you lie to SLED Agent Owen and Deputy Laura Rutland on the night of June 7th?
I did lie to them.
Did you lie to them by telling them that you were not down at the kennels on that night?
Yes.
Multiple witnesses throughout the trial testified they heard Alex's voice in a Snapchat video taken by Paul just 5 minutes before he and Maggie were killed. Murdaugh now claims he was there and went back to the house before visiting his mother. He blamed his lies on his drug addiction.
As my addiction evolved over time, I would get in these situations or circumstances where I would get paranoid. Once I lied, I continued to lie. Yes, sir.
Why?
You know, oh, what a tangled web we weave. But once I told the lie, I told my family, I had to keep lying.
Murdaugh admitted to committing multiple financial crimes, but maintained his innocence in his wife and son's murders.
Did you shoot a .300 blackout into her head, causing her death?
Mr. Griffin, I didn't shoot my wife or my son anytime.
The prosecution went into great detail questioning Murdaugh about what clients he stole money from. He admitted on the stand to stealing millions. The prosecution will continue its cross-examination tomorrow starting at 9:30. Brian.
Morgan, thank you. We also know where that threat came from that brought the Murdaugh trial to a halt a few weeks ago. Agents with the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division SLED traced the phone call that claimed that there was a bomb inside Judge Clifton Newman's chambers. Officials say the call came from the Bridgeland Correctional Institute in Jasper County. Colleton County Sheriff's Office has obtained an arrest warrant for an inmate named Joey Dean Coleman. There is no apparent connection between Coleman and Murdaugh.
Lies and more lies. In the second day on the stand, prosecutors argued that Alex Murdaugh fabricated his story, with testimony at times getting heated.
Murdaugh's second day on the stand was filled with fireworks, and Queen City News anchor Morgan Francis joins us live once again in the studio tonight. And Morgan, it sounded like Murdaugh got caught in yet another lie.
Yeah, Brian, one that he denied. Ironically, though, he was giving testimony about why he was lying. Lead prosecutor wasn't buying it. It's been 4 years to the day since Paul Murdaugh, allegedly drunk and underage, crashed his boat, killing 19-year-old Mallory Beach. On the witness stand for a second day, Alex Murdaugh blamed Maggie and Paul's 2021 deaths on that crash.
I did then believe it was the boat wreck, and I believe now that the boat wreck had something to do with it.
So what you're telling this jury is that it's a random vigilante.
For a second time, he admitted to lying to authorities about being at the kennels the night his wife and son were killed, and said he didn't take a nap at the home as he previously stated. Prosecutor Creighton Waters hammered Murdaugh on his timeline in the 4 minutes between the infamous video and Maggie and Paul's deaths.
So clear in your new story about everything. What were you doing during these 4 minutes?
I disagree with your assertion about every detail. I don't recall. I know that I was getting up and I was leaving. I was going to check on my mom.
Murdaugh said his lies in the past 20 months were the result of distrust with SLED. Waters pressed that, too, was a lie.
When was the last time you were here with them? Or talked to them or anything like that?
It was earlier tonight. I don't know the exact time, but
Okay.
I left. I was probably gone an hour and a half from my mom's, and I saw them about 45 minutes before that.
That was Sergeant Green, correct?
Yeah, that was Sergeant Green.
And at that point in time, SLED was not there. No one had gotten GSR from you. Your law partners or Sheriff Hill were not there.
That's correct.
No one had asked you about your relationships. David Owen was not there.
That's correct.
But you still told the same lie. And all those reasons that you just gave this jury about the most important part of your testimony was a lie too. Isn't that true, Mr. Murdaugh?
I disagree with that.
Nothing further.
And for the first time today, we also learned just how deep his addiction to oxycodone was. Murdaugh said he would take 60 pills or more a day, amounting to $50,000 a week. The defense is expected to call a couple more witnesses on Monday before we hear closing arguments. Alicia.
For 6 weeks, closing arguments have begun in the Alex Murdaugh double murder trial case. Soon now will be handed over to the jury to decide Alex Murdaugh's fate. Well, Queen City News anchor Morgan Francis has been covering this trial from the start, and she has details tonight on a field trip the jury took today and what was said in court.
The 12 jurors and 2 alternates rode in a van with blacked out windows to the site of the homicides on Moselle Road. This came at the request of the defense.
After an exhaustive investigation, there is only one person who had the motive, who had the means, who had the opportunity to commit these crimes, and also whose guilty conduct after these crimes betrays him.
The prosecution called Alex Murdaugh a family annihilator in closing arguments Wednesday, saying Murdaugh's building financial pressure pushed him to murder his wife and son in June of 2021.
The defendant is the person on which a storm was descending, and the defendant is a person where his own storm would actually mean consequences for Maggie and Paul, and consequences for those who trusted him. And that person is the defendant, Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
Jurors made the trip to Moselle to see where the crimes took place. At least one juror inspected the door frame of a storage closet where Paul Murdaugh was standing when he was killed.
She was running to her baby, heard that shot, and was running to her baby when she got mowed down by the only person that we have conclusive proof was at that scene just minutes before.
In closing arguments, lead prosecutor Creighton Waters reiterated Murdaugh lied about key details in the case, including the fact that he was at the dog kennels where the murders happened just minutes before Maggie and Paul were shot dead.
The most important thing he could have told law enforcement: when was the last time I saw my wife and child alive? Why in the world would an innocent, reasonable father and husband lie about that?
The defense team will deliver their closing arguments to the jury Thursday morning. Murdaugh faces 30 years to life if convicted of the murders. I'm headed to Walterboro and will be live on the ground when the verdict comes in.
Now to the murder trial that has captivated the nation. Convicted murderer Alex Murdaugh will spend the rest of his life in prison.
And I know you have to see Paul and Maggie during the night times when you're attempting to go to sleep. I'm sure they come and visit you. I'm sure.
All day and every night.
Yeah, I'm sure. And they will continue to do so. And reflect on the last time they looked you in the eyes.
The South Carolina jury deliberated 3 hours yesterday before finding Murdaugh guilty of killing his wife and youngest son. Now, before the judge handed down his sentence, he laid into Murdaugh, who he's known in South Carolina law enforcement circles for years. Queen City News anchor Morgan Francis is outside the Colleton County Courthouse with the choice words that Clifton Newman had for the man now convicted of his wife and son's murders.
Judge Clifton Newman said he could only imagine the looming storm that must have been coming on June 7th when now convicted Murdaugh killed his wife and son. He was a lawyer accused of stealing more than $500,000 from a client, had a tiger like Mark Tinsley on his tail pursuing discovery in the death of Mallory Beach, and Murdaugh's dad was on his deathbed. Newman said to Murdaugh, "You can convince yourself that everything was fine, but you can't convince anyone else." Newman said it's particularly troubling that Murdaugh was a well-known member of the legal community, practiced law before Newman, and said it's been heartbreaking for him to see Murdaugh go from a grieving father and husband to the man indicted and convicted of killing Maggie and Paul. Murdaugh in court this morning said twice he's innocent. Here's one of those exchanges.
You know, your license to practice law has been stripped away from you. Turn from lawyer to witness, and now have an opportunity to make your final appeal.
As I tell you again, I respect this court, but I'm innocent. I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my wife Maggie, and I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my son Paul.
Well, and it might not have been you. It might have been the monster you become when you take 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 opioid pills. Maybe you become another person.
So where does this go from here?
Yes,
the defense will file an appeal within 10 days, they say, but on the state side of things, they are just getting started. Hear what SLED had to say about their intentions for Murdaugh and even those connected to the family. That's ahead tonight at 6. In Walterboro, I'm Morgan Francis, Queen City News.
And Murdaugh's story won't end there. The disgraced attorney still faces dozens of charges related to financial crimes, and documentaries have highlighted a number of additional deaths that could be connected to the family. But many are taking note of the family's power in the small South Carolina town and the mystery that has always surrounded them. The Murdaugh's legal dynasty goes all the way back to 1920 with Randolph Murdaugh. He was the one that started it all and ran a one-man law office before he was elected as the first chief prosecutor for a 5-county region. Randolph served in that position for 2 decades before he was suddenly killed in a train crash. This led to a payout benefiting his son, Randolph Murdaugh Jr., who was nicknamed Buster, not to be confused with Alex Murdaugh's oldest son. After Randolph died, the younger Murdaugh took over his father's role in the solicitor's office and remained in that position for 46 years. When he retired, his son Randolph Murdaugh III, who was Alex Murdaugh's father, was elected and served until 2006. So let's go ahead and jump to today. A local Lowcountry newspaper called the Island Packet reported that Alex Murdaugh never ran for the prosecutor job, but he did serve as a volunteer prosecutor and sometimes helped his father with cases. He was officially removed from that volunteer role in September. Now, lots of mystery, of course, surrounding this family and Alex Murdaugh. We'll dig deeper into that and give you more information on what happened in court today, plus what happens next for the disgraced South Carolina attorney ahead at 6 o'clock.
The legal team for disgraced lawyer and convicted murderer Alex Murdaugh. They are set to hold a press conference this week calling for a new murder trial. You may remember Murdaugh was convicted and sentenced to life in prison earlier this year for the murder of his wife and son. His lawyers recently filed for a new trial citing the discovery of new evidence. They're expected to discuss the new evidence at the South Carolina State House Tuesday afternoon. We will let you know what happens there.